Hello guys, so let's talk about AI system in Unreal Engine. Okay, we have the third person template. So we have is everything from scratch. Okay, now one thing I want to do is create a AI system to have some cool AI behaviors. We can start with something simple. Let's creating a patrolling guard. I don't really need that output log. So let me go to the, I think I can go to the content browser and create a new folder. I can call this guy AI, right? Instead of it, I'm going to create a new blueprint class, and that class will be a AI controller. So let me go ahead and look for AI controller. All right, and then select. I can call this guy AIC guard. Okay. Now instead of this AIC guard, well, we don't have to set up anything here yet, but we can tell it to run some behavior. That means we need a behavior trait. Let me dock it here. So I'm going to create a new folder and call this AI behavior. Whoops, behavior. All right. Now instead of it, I'm going to create a new artificial intelligence and behavior trait. Okay, I can call this guy BT guard. Okay. Now also I'm going to create a artificial intelligence and blackboard. I can call this guy BB guard. Okay. So the BB guard and BT guard, those are the two crucial components of the AI system. You can think of this BT as the brain component. It is actually the brain component of the AI, the brain that what's going on in the mind of the AI. The BB is like the memory of the AI, so what he knows, what he doesn't know, the information he acquires, right? So that's what he's thinking, that's what he knows, right? Those two things is like the two crucial part that any intelligent being have to have, right? So that's what we're having here too. Let me open the BT guard. Okay, and here underneath the behavior trait, you can see it's already choosing that BB guard because that's the only blackboard asset we have here. Okay, again, behavior trait is the brain, blackboard is the knowledge. Okay, so for now we don't have any thought and we don't have any memory, so this behavior trait does nothing, but we can first tell the AC guard in the event graph to run that behavior trait. So what we do here is drag out from here and say run behavior trait. Okay, and then we can just say the behavior trait will be the behavior trait we have for the guard. Okay, compile and save this. Okay, now let's make it do something, right? So here we can say let's do a move to. Oh, actually we should start with something called a composites. A composite is basically different ways of evaluating different tasks or run different tasks. The primary ones are selector and sequence. Simple parallel, 99% of the time you wouldn't use it, but it's going to be run like one thing on the side and run another thing. We probably will go over it, just for the sake of it, but for now let's focus on these two, selector and sequence. Okay, so selector will select or go through every task that connect to it, and then it's gonna find out from left to right, find out the one that does succeed, and then go back. Okay, so if you have, let's just do some task here. You don't have to know what they are doing yet, but let's say you have multiple tasks. This is a task, meaning that the thing you gave the AI to do, right? If I just have many different tasks, let's say 3 tasks. So what this behavior trait will try to do with this selector is it's going to try to see if the first task and do the first task and see if it succeed. If it doesn't succeed, moving on to the second one and moving on to the third one until it reaches one successful task. For example, if the second one succeed, right? And then the selector will say, okay, I have done my job and let's go back. So the logic goes back to the root. So the root say, okay, let's do this again because that's everything we're doing, right? So it's going to repeat this process, go to selector again. It's going to try 1, 2, 3 until one of those guys succeed. Selector is done and repeat this entire process. Okay. another one is a sequence. Okay, sequence is going to be more like it's trying to run from 1 to 3, all 3 tasks. Okay, it's going to try to run all 3 tasks. Let me duplicate this guy one more time. So this sequence will try to run all 3, and it's going to try to make sure that everyone succeed. So the first one has to succeed, and then the second one, and the third one. So if all of those succeed without any problem, then sequence will say, okay, I have succeed. Okay. If one of those failed down the way, like the second task failed, that means this entire sequence is failed. Okay. Neither way, sequence will go back to the upper hierarchy. Okay. All right. So sequence, as you can see, the name is sequence. So it's trying to go through the entire sequence. Selector will only go through one of them that does succeed. Again, the order of execution is from left to right. Okay. So the difference is selector will eventually only run one of them. Okay. Depending on which one succeed first, go from left to right. Sequence will try to run everything from the beginning to the end, but when it hits something that is not successful, it's going to fail, and nothing after that will be run either, and the sequence will go back. Okay, and then repeat this entire process again. All right, so let me do that. So we need something to start with. We can do like a selector or sequence. It doesn't make any difference now because we're going to only doing one task. Let's do a move to. Okay. All right. So move to will ask the AI to move to something, right? But for now, this AI move to doesn't really know where to go because there's no knowledge, right? When I'm talking about like, this is 2 crucial components, the blackboard and the behavior trait. Now, when you wanted to tell it to the AI to move to, that's kind of like a logic, right? A thought that I want to go somewhere, but that somewhere is something you have to know, right? And that's what has to be in the blackboard. So go to blackboard and you can create a new key, and let's make an object. You know what? Let's make a vector. Okay. If I can do that. Sometimes it doesn't allow me to do that, so let's save this. Hopefully we can reopen this editor and it's going to allow me to do that. Okay, and I can call this guy move to location. Right. Oops. All right, so now I have a location to move to. That's like a memory here, right? So let's save that. All right. And then back to the behavior tray, I can say that move to will then move to that move to location. The blackboard key is the information that you get from the memory. So this move to will say, I'm going to move to, you can see there's actually a hint here. I'm going to move to the move to location, right? That move to location again is the blackboard move to location. All right, so let's review what we did. First of all, we have the behavior tray. We have an AI, right? AI controller. AI controller will run the behavior tray, meaning that AI is going to use this way of thinking, right? And that's the way of thinking. We just move to somewhere, and that somewhere will be a memory located in the blackboard. Okay, so it's all well and good. The AI guard, whatever character that's being driven by this AI, being possessed by this AI controller, will try to run this behavior tray, which is this guy. And this guy will just move to a location. That location is somewhere stored in the blackboard. Okay, so that's pretty much the logic of the AI system here. But there's a problem. The location here, it doesn't have a text field or something for you to tap in the location, right? That thing can be updated by any external code, including the behavior tray. But let's just keep things simple and say, let's update this memory, right? This move to location in the AI controller. That seems like to be a good place to go, right? So after run behavior tray, let's just keep things simple and then just get the player controller, not player controller actually, the player pawn. But I don't think they're gonna make any difference because they're all at the same location anyways. So let's get the player pawn and then get the actor location, right? And that location will be used to update, right? To update our move to location in the brain component, in the memory component or blackboard of this behavior. So we can say, okay, we know the actual location of the player pawn. Now I want to update this information to the blackboard. So how can we do that? How can we do that, right? There is actually a convenient function here to get the blackboard. Okay, we can just get it here right away, right? Oh, actually not that one, the AI controller one. Okay, AI controllers get blackboard. Okay, and then this blackboard will be, then let's set value as vector. Okay, cool. Now when I connect this to here, I can then set the vector. Okay, we're setting a value as vector, but what value, right? There could be many values in the blackboard. We have only one now, but how do we tell it what value to do to update? That's when this key name comes into play. Okay. So however, this key name as a name, so you can do a make literal name, and you have to then type in the name. The name will be exactly the name here. So what you can do is just copy this and paste it here. Okay, feels like a really data-driven system. But anyway, so now we're saying, okay, we get the player, see where it is, and that location will be then the value of the move to location. So when we run behavior tree, then the behavior tree will say, okay, let's move to there. Okay. Oh, there's actually one problem though. Here we run behavior tree up before we set the value. Let's actually change that order. Okay. That also means we have to use the blackboard to start with. Okay. So use blackboard to tell the AI, okay, that's my brain. Sorry, that's not my memory, right? That's where my knowledge is. Okay. And then we can just connect that here. Right? That way we're being specific. Okay. So when we use this AI, the AI will say, I'm going to use this blackboard as where I store my knowledge, right? I'm going to set the value of the move to location in the blackboard, right? This guy, to be where the player is, right? And then let's run that behavior tree, and the behavior tree will say, okay, let's move to that location. Okay, that's how everything ties together. Now, one last thing to do is, for this guy, let's alt and drag it over to here, and let's change that auto possess by player to disable, right? We're not auto possessing by player. Let's change the auto possess by AI to be placing word or spawned. Okay, and the AI controller will be the AIC guard. Okay, now if you go ahead and play, whoops, it's not doing anything. So let's take a look at why. Back here to the AI guard, we can drag it over here and see what's going on. Okay, and then we can go ahead and play. You can see it's trying to do this, and move to location. It's trying to move to there. It cannot. Okay, there's one problem I forget to do, which is if you wanted to be able to move, there is a navigation mesh. You have to do that. Okay, I always forget that. So navigation mesh will be in the modes, and then creating stuff. You can place a nav mesh inside of this area. So nav mesh bound volume is going to be the one, and you can make it really big just to cover this entire area. Okay, and you can hit the P button to preview the nav mesh generated. It's using a recasting way. Just cast rays from up to bottom and see if you hit something flat, and if you do, then there is a geometry. Means that the AI can move around. Anyway, so now we can go ahead and play. You can see it, he's moving to where our initial location is. All right, that's actually like a sneak peek of how this AI behavior works. Just one more review, right? So we start with creating an AI controller. Right? This AI controller will then use a blackboard. That blackboard is something we also created. Actually, we create two things, right? A behavior tree and blackboard. Blackboard is the knowledge of the AI. Behavior tree is the brain of the AI, how the AI is thinking. And we're using this, we're running that behavior tree. But down the way in the middle, we'll also say, okay, this blackboard, I want your move to location be where the player is. Okay, and then the AI will run the behavior tree, and the behavior tree then will go ahead and move to that particular location that is in the blackboard. Okay, I hope that everything ties together. It may seem to be a little bit too much stuff to do, right? But this AI behavior can save you a lot of time trying to implement complicated AIs all from blueprint. This way is more clean and easier to manage and make adjustment and also put functionalities together. All right, so that's the first peek of the AI system, and moving on to the next, we can talk about some more cool stuff with the behavior tree that we can do over here. We're not only doing one thing, but we can do more things. Okay, see you next time.